Oh, hey there! Moment of truth. It is good to see you and welcome to this episode. You know, I want to talk about something today. We are in the season of college football. I have been watching my Oklahoma State Sooners and my LSU Tigers, and I know you've got your teams too, but this is that season where we think about our team. In fact, I love this story. Coach Bud Wilkinson was once asked, Coach, how has the game of football contributed to health and fitness in America? And Coach Bud Wilkinson said it hasn't contributed at all. In fact, he defined the game of football. He said, you know what football is? Football is 22 men on the field desperately needing rest, and it's 22,000 fans in the stadium desperately needing exercise. That's football. And I've always loved that illustration because it reminds me that if you're going to succeed in life, if you're going to succeed in ministry, you've got to have a team. It's teamwork that makes the dream work. That's the idea. And so today on Moment of Truth, we're talking about the team here at Central Church. You know, and the Bible gives 3 words for a pastor elder. Episkopos, that is where we get the word in our day, episcopal. It's overseer. There's presbyteros, and that's where Presbyterians get their word. Elder, and it speaks to their elder-led polity. And there's poimen, and it's the word of a shepherd. That's what we use today. And that's what the team is made up of. And all 3 of those words describe one office, elder, shepherd. And so today, on this episode of Moment of Truth, we're going to dive right in, and we're going to try and understand what an elder shepherd ought to look like. Now, you might have seen this happen this past week. We had elections, and we had several men make it through to become elders. We're really excited about that. But what should they look like? What should they be doing? That's what we're going to discover on today. This, your Moment of Truth. Okay, let's dive right in. Today we're in 1 Timothy chapter 3, and it's in 1 Timothy 3 that we get the administration of the church. And we have to couch all of this in the context of what the book was written to do. Why did Paul write Timothy? Why did Paul write Titus? He's teaching these very young men how to administrate the church. He's going to tell Titus in chapter 1 and 2, he's going to say, look, you need to appoint elders. Here's how you minister to the women in your church. You need to use the older women to speak to the younger women and train them in godliness and family. And that's all really important. With Timothy, what he's going to say is you also need to appoint some elders, but there are some qualifications that these people have to meet. Now, later in chapter 3, and that's the section we're studying today, but later in chapter 3, one of the things that Paul will say to Timothy in verse 14, I hope to come to you soon, but I'm writing these things to you so that, here's the purpose, what's the purpose of this book? So that if I delay, you may know how one ought to behave in the household of God, a pillar and a buttress of the truth. You're reading these chapters today, these 5 chapters in 1 Timothy. What's the point of the book? Paul wants Timothy to know how to conduct himself, how to behave in church, what church life should look like. And so that's what this book is about. And in chapter 3, we get the qualifications of an elder or a pastor. As you read these phrases and as you read these qualifications, you might get the sense that who can do this? This is unobtainable for anyone to live this way for a long period of time. And so, can anyone be an elder? Why do these men need to be characterized in this way? Well, first of all, these descriptions are characteristics. It's not saying that these men are perfect, but what it is saying is that these characteristics are the norm of their life. No one is perfect to be a shepherd. No one has lived a sinless life. We're all sort of fitting into this role that we're not perfect for. But these men are to be this way because they are going to be examples to the flock of God. So are you following with me? That's why these guys have to meet certain qualifications. Let's walk through them together. First, there has to be a calling. I want you to notice this with me. that in verse 1, the saying is trustworthy if anyone, here's the word, aspires. Now, this is the first qualification. The calling of God has to be on this person's life. There has to be an aspiration. I want to do this. No one can be compelled into this type of service or they won't last. This has to be a calling that God has put this desire in someone's heart. I want to serve the church. I want to give my life to the church. I want to serve in this way and be a shepherd of souls. This is what I want to do. That's the idea. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, it's a noble task. Now, I want to say a couple of things here. We at Central Church, we believe that this position is limited to men. In fact, throughout the passage, I think the passage goes out of its way. He must be the husband of one wife. Only men can fulfill that role. Only men can be a husband. It's constantly speaking in masculine terms. And so we would part ways from other denominations that would say ladies can be pastors. And so, in fact, I would say that's one of the marks of a true church. Are we taking a literal interpretation of the Scripture, or are we bending the Bible to fit the times and the cultural norms of our day? And so we're the kind of church where we're just going to read a text and we're going to look at it and say, well, it just seems to say this. Let's do church that way. And by the way, I'm not saying that ladies cannot do ministry. In fact, I have 4 ladies in my household. I want them to minister in every possible way that they are allowed to biblically. There's just 2 things that Timothy makes it really clear that ladies cannot do. They cannot be pastor elders, and they cannot exert authority over a man. They cannot speak authoritatively over a man in the service. That's pretty clear. And so I want to make those 2 distinctions. Everything else, I think that they should be able to do those things. They should be able to pray in the service. They should be able to minister in the church. And so we want our girls, I want my girls to do those things and minister in that way. But that's one of the things we see here. In verse 2, it says that the elder must be a husband of one wife. Let's pause on that. What does that mean? Well, there's lots of options there. Some people think that that's speaking specifically about polygamy. Other people believe that that is speaking about a divorce, like you can't have a divorce in your history. I take the view that what this is it speaks to the husband's proven faithfulness that he has been, and this is what the Greek says, a one-woman man. That over the course of a man's life, he has proven himself to be a one-woman man, and that's over a period of time, all right? I think that's the clearest interpretation. That's the majority view of that. It goes on to say he must be not only above reproach, not only the husband of one wife, but sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach. This is someone that the entire congregation looks to as a teacher, as a leader, someone who opens up their home, lets people in. It's someone who practices hospitality. Very interesting. Are you hospitable? The elder is to be hospitable. Why? Because that's what we want the whole church to be. So go the elders, so go the leadership of the church, so goes the whole congregation. So it's a responsible thing. It's a desirable thing. Now, for just a minute, let's talk about some of the ideas of what it means to be blameless. All right? We've talked about a few of the qualifications, but a lot of the qualifications revolve around blamelessness. Let's talk about that just for a second. Husband of one wife, vigilant or temperate, sober, good behavior, respectable, orderly life, given to hospitality, able to teach, not given or addicted to wine. What that doesn't mean is that the person can never have had alcohol in their life. What it means is that they're not addicted to alcohol. What it means is that they are in self-control or they are disciplined. When we look at elders, we look at the discipline of their entire life. Are they disciplined in their home, in the raising of their children? Are they disciplined in in society? Are they disciplined to work? Why? Because if the person is not disciplined in every other part of their life, they're not going to be disciplined as an elder. This is a high calling. And so we look at all sorts of parts of I don't like the way I just said that. So we look at many different parts of their life and we examine them for discipline, not violent. We've been in a really good season as an elder team where we've just not been fighting. And for the 4 years, almost 4 years that I've been here, there's been a great season of peace. Our elder votes are very positive. So far, we've had unanimous votes. We've not been fighting and quarreling. Really, one of the qualifications is that this person is not a brawler, not a fighter, that they don't blow up in situations, but you can trust them to keep a cool head. They're free from the love of money. They're trustworthy. These guys are giving their money. Why? Because the entire church is to be giving their money to support the work of the ministry. These men are examples of this. They're not corrupt. They're trustworthy. They're blameless in their family life. He keeps his family under control with all dignity. There's a discipline of children. And again, this is not that you have to have a perfect family. It's not that all of your children have to be perfect. It's that you manage your household well. Why? All of this goes back to being an example to the flock. And so this past week, we had our family meeting just last night, and we elected new elders to the role of shepherd and elder here at Central Church. This is how I want to end today's session. Would you pray for them? Would you watch the conduct of their life? And here's what happens in this next season. In this next season, we're going to be watching these men. They're in an intern season. They do not gain the full role of elder yet. They're elder interns. And we're going to spend the next season examining the conduct of their lives to see if these things are true as we start meeting with them in the coming months. So would you pray for them? Would you pray for us? You have recommended these men to us. We have examined them. You have voted them in. Now we're going to spend the next period of time, the next coming months, examining their life as they operate on the elder board without a vote. And also, would you also pray for them that they would be good examples to the flock of God? Why do we do this? We raise up elders here at Central Church because we want to give you good examples. We want to give the body good examples of what an elder looks like, what you should be. Hey, God bless. This has been your Moment of Truth.